LSD, also known as acid, is commonly referred to as one of the most trippy and mind-bending drugs out there. But what exactly is LSD? Where does it come from, and what does it do to your brain while you're tripping? LSD was first synthesized in the 1930s by a Swiss chemist, Albert Hofmann, while he was working for a pharmaceutical company. It's made from lysergic acid, which is a chemical that can be found in a group of fungi called ergot. Its full potential was realized in 1943 when Hofmann tested it himself. Hofmann experienced sudden and intense changes in perception and began to feel very anxious. But after checking his vitals and realizing he was physically healthy, Hofmann began to enjoy his trip. With further research, he viewed the drug as a powerful psychiatric tool, and it was brought to the US in the early 50s for further testing of its clinical applications. All of this progress was halted in the 60s, when Nixon's government declared LSD a Schedule I drug, meaning it has no accepted medical use and has a high risk for abuse. Since then, LSD has made its way into many forms of mainstream media, with references to the drug appearing in films, TV, and especially in music. More recently, studies have shown that acid use is making a resurgence, at least in the US, with LSD intake increasing by 56% from 2015 to 2018. LSD is a psychoactive drug, meaning it alters your perception of time and space, but it's also a psychedelic drug, which is a hallucinogenic class of psychoactive drugs that tend to greatly alter your state of consciousness. The average LSD experience lasts anywhere from 8 to 12 hours. Recent research using modern neuroimaging technology has allowed us more insight to what is going on when someone does LSD. Researchers found that when on LSD, distinct brain networks became more connected to one another, allowing for more integrated communication between these networks, and this was especially noticeable in the visual cortex, which provides an explanation for the more visual effects. This also leads to the phenomenon known as synesthesia, when stimulants that are typically perceived through one sense are perceived through another sense. The effects reported by users of LSD range greatly and depend highly on the dosage, but for the most part, moderately experienced users will report the experience of ego dissolution. Ego dissolution, also referred to as ego death, is defined as a loss of subjective self-identity, which is often described as a feeling of strong connectivity to yourself, the people around you, and the natural world in general. Ego death is directly linked to dampened activity in a section of your brain called the default mode network, or DMN. The DMN is a brain network that is largely dedicated to social functionality, time perception, and the separation of self from other. This is accompanied with feelings of lost identity, which some find to be comforting, while others find this to be difficult and a very uncomfortable experience. Many people have described this experience to feel like a rebirth, and as something that reshapes the way they look at the world. There was a study done in 2018 with 14 participants, where each participant was given 200 micrograms of LSD and surveyed about their experience after 12 months. Out of these 14, 10 participants rated the LSD experience among the top 10 most meaningful experiences in their lives, with 8 participants rating the experience as very strongly spiritual. With LSD, it's also important to remember that there is always the possibility someone may experience a bad trip. The symptoms and signs of these bad trips vary greatly, but are often accompanied with paranoia, anxiety, and some unsettling visuals. To reduce the probability of a bad trip, people should only ever trip in an environment they're comfortable with and have people around them who are trustworthy and also comfortable with the drug. Some other effects that may sound more familiar are feelings of slight nausea, an increased heart rate, higher body temperature, dehydration, and of course, extremely dilated pupils. To end off this video, I thought I'd share an anecdote that I came across when doing some research for this video. It's about this young man, Louis, from the west of France, who says he has one of the deepest conversations he ever had with a tree in a forest near a party after taking 200 microgram tabs of acid. He says, "It was very inspiring. I think that at this moment, I knew I was cured from the pain caused by my breakup and by the death of my grandfather. I spent a lot of time chatting with my new mate, along with some flowers nearby. Besides this being somewhat of a strange story and experience, I thought it would provide some context for what an LSD trip can be like. A very intense experience, and one you should definitely be prepared for if you plan on dropping. Anyways, thanks for watching. Drop a like if you enjoyed, or a dislike if you didn't. Either way, I appreciate the view.